samples which are sponsored by Merck, but the research we carried on LH receptors are completely our own funded research. In this talk, I'll be basically carrying you through a journey about the role of LH in the early follicular phase, in the mid-follicular phase, the window concept, the LH levels in different control ovarian stimulation protocols, introduction to the concept of poor responder, the Bologna criteria, the procedure strategy, the concept of hyperresponders, and role of LH polymorphism and LH supplementation in GNRH agonistic and antagonistic cycles, and a small summary of the study which we are carrying out for the last 5 years. In any goal of the stimulation protocol, the goal is to have optimal number of oocytes. One will be surprised if one knows that if you calculate the total number of oocytes you have and the number of live babies that are born, it will be around 6.6 babies per 100 oocytes. That's the average globally, give or take 0.5%. And that says that the number of oocytes that you have makes a lot of difference in your carry home baby rate, not in the short term, but in the long term. So the goal of any stimulation protocol is to have adequate number of oocytes so that the inefficiencies of the embryo culture, inefficiencies of the genetic material, and the inefficiencies of the implantation are partly overcome with numbers. If one can say IVF is a game of number manipulation, and the more the numbers you have, the better the pregnancy rate or the number of embryos you have. So one of the most important variables in ovarian stimulation is to have adequate number of oocytes at the same time, not to end up in hyperstimulation, at the same time, not to have too few oocytes, so that we give the woman a fair chance of pregnancy. The pregnancy rates that were initially divided by the Bologna criteria, they were divided into the poor responder, the optimal responder, and the hyper-responder. The optimal responders were again divided into 4 to 9 oocytes, 10 to 15 oocytes, and the hyper-responders as 15 oocytes. Most of the current day Procedure concept speaks about the 4 to 9 oocyte group predominantly, not about the 10 to 15 oocyte group. One should remember whenever one is reading an article about the Poseidon concept that they are looking at 4 to 9 oocyte group, that is the optimal responder but slightly on the lower side, and in the group 3 and the group 4 are the first group of the Bologna criteria. We had the pleasure of working with the stalwarts of Asia and writing a current review of the luteinizing hormone, which was written 5 years ago, and some of the concepts are still relevant today. And C.C. Wong, who was the first author of the paper, is a pioneer who was the first person who, with author was able to do the GIFT procedure. The other procedures are still continuing the work on the LH, and most of the LH publications are coming in Asia from this group of people. Before we say what is a good responder and what is an ongoing poor responder, I just want to say that when we're getting a lot of oocytes, everybody is happy. When we're getting suboptimal oocytes, we never know whether they are on the right side of the track or wrong side of the track. The first and the foremost is giving adequate dosage. What it means by giving adequate dosage is your dosage nomogram should be based on either the antral follicle count or the AMH, the body mass index, and the type of medication you're giving in that particular people. And in those patients, if you're seeing adequate number of follicles but are having lower E2 levels and the rate of follicular growth comes at a lower pace, that is an ongoing poor responder. And these are the patients which can be salvaged by manipulation, which I am going to tell in the next 4-5 slides. What is the role of follicular phase? We are a lot of time told that LH is bad, and we are ingrained with the concept LH is harmful. But when you look at a beautiful article which was written in NEJM almost 8 or 9 years ago, where it wrote a review article saying LH is a master regulator of the reproductive tract through the ERK1 and ERK2 systems. And in this slide, we are always taught too much of LH is bad. But one we should remember is all the three does not happen in a single patient. Either we have an LH threshold problem or an optimal stimulation, or an optimal stimulation and a ceiling effect. But in the same patient, you will never have a ceiling effect and a threshold effect. So one should always remember, whenever they're giving an LH supplementation, both the three mechanisms of ceiling and threshold will not act in the same patient. The threshold group of patients are different, the ceiling group of patients are different. That's one of the key things which we get confused many times. And in the process, when we try to add LH or any product which is similar to LH, we are always in the back of the mind worrying, are we causing the ceiling effect or are we just sufficing the threshold effect? But in true sense, the ceiling and the threshold will not happen in the same patient in a given stimulation protocol. The role of LH in the follicular phase, what was taught 5 years back, is evolving. This is the part of the two-cell two-gonadotropin concept, where it is predominantly based on the estrogen and the progesterone, and the theca cell and the granular cell. And this is the basis for most of our stimulations. But in the past few years, a new change is occurring. Here, when you look at the first slide, second row, that's it. When you look at these times, this is not the size of the follicle, this is the preantral follicle, and this is a small antral follicle, 10 millimeters, and this is the pre-ovulatory follicle. And TC is the theca cell, GC is the granular cell. As the follicle advances, the LH receptors also form in the granular cell. So this is changing into a two-cell two-gonadotropin therapy, which is undergoing a better classification using the addition of the molecular genetics. So the concept is LH is able to exert its action on both granulosa and theca cell in a follicular phase, but that varies from different aspects of the cell. This is radically a modification of the concept, which will in the years come to many more receptors will come and act here in fine-tuning our stimulation protocol. But at this moment, this is about LH chorionic gonadotropin receptor, which is a G protein which regulates the activity. This is one of the publications which was published in the March issue of the European Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. And one thing is, androgens play a lot of role, and androgens with the role of LH increase the following activity. Here we are seeing on the theca cell how the role of androgens will increase the thing. In the mid phase, this is the granular cell where both LH and FSH act the panel for oocyte maturation. Why this is important is our understanding of FSH and LH is changing. In the years a decade ago, when we were practicing, the average age of the patient was 30 years, where these fine things were not needed. But as the population of the women have aged and they're reaching 35, the deficiency of the LH, the decrease in the number of LH receptors is playing a major role in the stimulation. And that's the importance of these previous three slides. This is a fascinating slide which shows LH as it happens in a natural cycle, how it declines. Then this is in the antagonistic cycle, this is in the agonistic cycle, and this is in the hyporesponder. We have a thinking that the LH levels are different and it will be similar throughout the cycles. But the reality is they decrease throughout the cycles. So the role of LH supplementation is different in different populations, but also different in different stimulation protocols. There is a subgroup of these people who follow below this line, which will need supplementation. This below the subgroup below the black line does not happen to every patient, and identifying those patients is the key to get good ovarian stimulation. So this was a paper where they looked at the number of times LH fall below the threshold in an antagonistic cycle, and as more times the LH has fallen below a certain level, the pregnancy rates are pregnancy loss rates are increasing. So the role of LH supplementation in antagonistic cycle based on LH threshold, the frequency of LH low serum is associated with pregnancy loss. What I am trying to say is whether you use an agonistic protocol or an antagonistic protocol, just like my previous speaker has spoken about the progesterone monitoring, LH monitoring is also equally important in difficult patients. In easy young patients, all these are needed, but in a real difficult patients where you have ample follicles in the borderline, where you want to get adequate number of oocytes, all these make a difference. What happens if this is not taken care of? If it is elevated, then you have a negative pregnancy rate, and if it is suppressed, you have a negative pregnancy rate. Maintaining a tight balance between these two things will give you a good follicular development, normal androgens and estrogen biosynthesis, and good oocyte maturation. So LH has an anti-apoptotic action, increases the response of receptors, and acts synergistically with the IgG1 receptors. So when there is given a HCG and an LH thing, the role is slightly different, but they work most of the time. There is an interesting review article wherein they said one ligand and two receptors, wherein LH and HCG act on the same place, but the duration of actions are different. When you look at the HCG molecule, it increases the progesterone when it is given. When you give a LH molecule, it does not increase the progesterone. That simple statement has profound bearing for future. Initially, we had an experience with the role of HMG. We found LH as a subgroup of population. And this subgroup of population differs in the number of embryos and in the pregnancy rate per embryo, but not per patient. Now when I come to poor responder, we are essentially having two concepts, the Bologna criteria and the Positian criteria. In the Bologna criteria, which was an X-ray guided symposium which happened in the city of Bologna, where they identified the following criteria. One is age more than 40 years or other risk factors, a previous less than 3 oocytes, or an abnormal ovarian response of 5 to 7 ample follicles, or AMH 0.5 to 11. Any two of the three are present. Subsequently, as this Bologna criteria had certain deficiencies of not defining the other receptors and other risk factors, and the time from 2011 to 2018 have passed. Other groups have taken forward in proposing a concept called Positian concept. In Positian concept, A group of clinicians from Europe, South America, and UK have come forward and defined a concept, and these are the people who defined the concept. Their basic thing is they divided these patients of suboptimal responders or poor responders into position 1 and 2, which are basically based on age 35 years, and a poor responder group of group 3 and group 4, which are which have very few oocytes. Essentially, the position strategy is for managing when you have ample follicle count low or AMH borderline, or a patient who had previously poor responder. Use this strategy to identify and plan a treatment. This strategy is not for a normal responder. In a poor responder, one should also always accept the reality is, if you have this many oocytes, whatever you do, you get only this many oocytes. This is completely different from a hyperresponder. In a poor responder, you should identify other subgroup of factors and then counsel the patient of chance for oocyte and the possibility of many cycles, which is an, or the role of third-party donation depending on the situation of poor responder. Whereas similar thing does not hold good. I would say the statement, poor responders have lower prognosis. Hyperresponders have good prognosis. This is an essential thing one should remember. In a hyperresponder, you have this many oocytes, but you stimulated only some oocytes. That means there is scope for improvement. And when you do LH in those poor responders, based on the concept of adequate number of oocytes with lower E2 levels, lower follicular growth, when you add LH, that is when the cycle is rescued to get good number of oocytes. So essentially, this forms the basis of the group 1 and group 2 of the position concept. Allergy has proposed that some of the receptors of FSH receptors may play a role in the suboptimal responders. But we started the work in 2012 on the LHCGR receptor. Initially, we studied the FSHR gene, the LH gene, which we did not find they are related to the stimulation protocol. More they are related to the gonadal failure. Then we moved to the FSHR receptor, where the uniformity was not there. Finally, we moved to the LHCG receptor, and then we found two groups of receptors make a difference. LH at the position 10 is one area where a change can affect the response of the stimulation protocol. In this paper, this is the concept of this LH receptor, and if this receptor is abnormal, then your drug might not go in properly to produce a change from monofollicular to multifollicular development. The areas where we studied are the following things. A similar group of scientists from the Lund University have studied it, but they studied the pregnancy outcomes but not the dosage response in the same year when we published the data. Here we found that at position 10, if there is an A by A, the response is good. If it is A by G and G by G, which I come in a minute, in this a sample is taken, it is preserved, and the data analysis is done using a gene sequencer. In the original study, we have taken all the DNA, extracted it, and did a post-analysis after treatment. So we are practically blinded to the stimulation protocol in relation to LH supplementation. This is how an electrophotogram looks from a gene sequencer, and whenever you find a particular thing absent, you find the brown lines present. So in this group, you see the arginine, that's the theta cell, and the yellow are the LH hormone. In this patient, LH goes into the theta cell freely, And these group of patients, when you look at clinically, have higher testosterone, easy stimulation of FSH, and they have higher AMH and higher LH group. When you look at the pattern of G by G group, the yellow says the LH has difficulty entering into the thecal cell. And in these groups, the testosterone are normal. They have borderline AMH, high incidence of reversal of FSH LH, and these are the patients who have cancelled cycles outside. And these patients, when you add LH supplementation, they respond normally because their antral follicle count are normal. Essentially, the receptor concept works in a hyporesponder but not in a poor responder. In a hyporesponder, to break the monofollicular development to multifollicular development, when there is a receptor polymorphism, you add LH supplementation, then you get hyperresponse. Otherwise, you are stuck with monoresponse and in turn get a bad pregnancy outcome. So when we look back at the data with the procedural concept, our G by G and the G by G group in young patients with adequate number of oocytes are matching to the preceding one, group 1 and group hyporesponders. And if we simplify the same thing, if we are doing a pharmacogenic approach for LH supplementation, if we have a by A, there is no need for LH supplementation. If it is by G, we need transfer unit. And we are happy that some of this work is being incorporated in South America and in few centers in Germany, where they are trying to do a trial of using LH receptor for LH supplementation. So the carry-home message, LH addition is important, but not for every patient. LH role is important in hyporesponders and not in poor responders. And as clinicians, we should make a difference between a normal responder, hyporesponder, and a poor responder. And we should use our dosage adjustment based on antral follicle count or AMH, the body mass index, and the other immunological parameters to say this is the optimum dosage we are giving, then only the LH supplementation comes in. So for a carry-home message, what I would like to tell is, LH is an evolving concept. Stimulation protocol is an evolving concept. In the next 2 years, the field of pharmacogenomics will make rapid strides in fine-tuning this protocol. At this moment, our discovery or our answer of finding LH CGR receptor at position 10 is making a difference, and I understand who needs LH supplementation. I thank one and all for the patient hearing.
Ramaraju sir, it was a very engaging talk on the role of LH. We learned very new concepts about it, and hopefully it will be of good use in future. Anyone from the audience would like to ask any queries?
Thank you very much.
So, LH hormone you are using or LH